My name is Thea Anders, and I'm 29 years old. You were always our biggest disappointment, my mother said while sliding a pen across the table so I could sign away my inheritance in front of 12 relatives. That was 3 years ago. I walked out of my parents' house that afternoon with nothing. No money, no family, no safety net. My sister Victoria took everything. The $4 million estate, the beach house, the investment accounts. My father didn't even look at me when I left. What none of them knew, not my mother, not my father, not my perfect sister, was what a single phone call between two lawyers would uncover 3 years later. And when my father finally heard the number, he said the same two words over and over, like a man who just watched his whole world tilt sideways. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now, let me take you back to a Sunday afternoon in March, the day my family sat me down and erased me. The phone call comes on a Wednesday night. I'm sitting cross-legged on the floor of my studio apartment in New Haven, surrounded by fabric samples and floor plans for a client's living room renovation. My first real solo project, $800. I'm proud of it. My mother's name lights up the screen. Family meeting this Sunday. Don't be late. No explanation, no warmth, just instructions. I almost don't go. Something in her tone feels off, sharper than usual, more rehearsed, but it's family. And despite everything, I still show up when they call. That's always been my problem. Sunday morning, I drive 3 hours from New Haven to Fairfield County. The March rain hasn't let up in days, and the windshield wipers beat a rhythm I can't shake. When I turn onto Ridgewood Lane, the house rises through the gray. Stone facade, black shutters, the kind of home that looks like it was built to intimidate. I grew up here. It never felt like mine. Inside, 12 people are already seated around the dining room table. Grandmother Rosemary sits nearest the window, hands folded in her lap. Uncle Robert is beside her, jaw tight. Aunt Janet, 3 cousins, everyone dressed like they're attending something formal. At the head of the table sits Mr. Whitfield, my parents' estate attorney, silver-haired, reading glasses on a chain, a thick leather folder open in front of him. My father, Richard, stands behind his chair, arms crossed. He doesn't greet me. My mother, Patricia, gestures to an empty seat at the far end, the only one left. And there, at my father's right hand, sits Victoria. My older sister pressed blazer pearl earrings. She doesn't look at me either, but her posture says everything. She already knows what's coming. On the table in front of my empty chair, I see a single document. My name is printed at the top. I can't read the rest before my father clears his throat. Sit down, Thea. This won't take long. I sit. The chair is cold. My father doesn't waste time. He nods at Mr. Whitfield, who opens the leather folder and begins reading in that flat legal tone that strips everything of emotion. The estate, all of it, is being transferred to Victoria Ann Anders. The house on Ridgewood Lane, the beach cottage in Mystic, the investment accounts, the trust fund established by my grandfather. Total estimated value, $4 million, every penny, every wall, every memory that was supposed to be shared. Victoria's name appears on every line. Mine appears on none. I look at my father. And me. He doesn't answer. He adjusts his cufflink and stares at a point just past my shoulder. My mother fills the silence. She's been waiting for it. You were always our biggest disappointment. She says it the way someone reads a grocery list. Calm, final. We're not going to pretend anymore. The room doesn't move. Grandmother Rosemary looks down at her hands. Uncle Robert shifts in his seat but says nothing. Aunt Janet studies the table. My cousins avoid my eyes like I've already stopped existing. Victoria sits perfectly still. She doesn't speak, but I catch it. The smallest tug at the corner of her mouth. Not quite a smile. Close enough. Mr. Whitfield clears his throat. He slides the document closer to me. A relinquishment of inheritance rights. Pre-drafted tabs already marking where to sign. We'll need your signature to finalize. I look at the pen. I look at my mother. Her chin is lifted. She's daring me to make a scene. I pick up the pen. My hand is steady. That surprises even me. I heard you, Mom. I sign. I stand before the ink is dry. Nobody stops me. Nobody says wait. Nobody says, are you okay? The room exhales as I push back from the table, not with relief, but with the collective understanding that the uncomfortable part is over for them. I walk through the hallway toward the front door. My footsteps echo on the hardwood. To my left, the gallery wall. I've passed it 1,000 times. 3 framed photographs. Victoria's law school graduation. Her accepting the Dean's Award. Her standing between Mom and Dad on a balcony in Rome. Silver frames perfectly spaced. There are no photographs of me. I open the front door. The rain hasn't stopped. My phone buzzes before I reach my car. A text from Victoria. No hard feelings, right? It's just business. I stare at it for 10 seconds. Then I delete it. The drive back to New Haven takes 3 hours. I make it 20 minutes before I pull over. I park on the shoulder of I-95, turn off the engine, and sit there. Cars blur past. The rain hammers the roof. I don't cry. I don't scream. I just sit with it. The weight of being subtracted from your own family like a line item on a spreadsheet. 40 minutes, then I start the car again. When I get home, my apartment is exactly as I left it. Fabric samples on the floor. The client's floor plan pinned to the wall, a bowl of cereal on the counter from breakfast. I check my bank account. $3,200, no family, no connections, no one coming to help. I sit on the kitchen floor that night and make a list. Not of what I lost, of what I still have. It's a short list, but it's mine. The first client cancels on a Tuesday. Hi, Thea. We've decided to go in a different direction. Best of luck. No explanation. I send a polite reply and move on. These things happen. The second cancellation comes 4 days later. This one stings more. It was a full kitchen renovation. 3 weeks of planning, measurements already taken. The homeowner calls instead of emailing. We heard you're going through some personal issues, she says carefully. We just think it's better to work with someone more stable right now. I ask who told her that. She hesitates. I'd rather not say. Something cold settles in my stomach. 2 cancellations in 1 week. Both using language that sounds coached. Both pulling away for reasons that have nothing to do with my work. I take on smaller jobs. A living room refresh for a rental unit, $800. A color consultation for a couple in West Haven, $200. I eat cereal for dinner 3 nights a week. Not because I'm romantic about struggle, because cereal is 349 cents a box. Rock bottom isn't dramatic, it's quiet. It's splitting a box of pasta into 3 meals and calling it budgeting. In week 3, I try the only family lifeline I have left. Uncle Robert, my father's younger brother. He's always been gentler than Dad. He once told me my eye for color reminded him of Grandmother Rosemary. Thea. I love you, he says on the phone. But don't pull me into the middle of this. He hangs up, and I understand there is no middle. There's the Anders family and there's me. 2 separate countries now. That evening, an email arrives from an address I don't recognize. Someone requesting a design consultation for a penthouse in Hartford. Budget significant. I almost delete it. It feels too good to be real. I don't delete it. The truth finds me in a coffee shop on Chapel Street. It's a Saturday morning about 6 weeks after the meeting. I'm reviewing sketches for a bathroom remodel, the only project I have left, when a woman approaches my table. Claire Dutton, former client. I'd redesigned her home office the previous fall. Thea, I thought that was you. She sits down without asking. Her face is strange, half guilt, half curiosity. I have to ask you something. Are you still doing design work? Of course. Why? She stirs her coffee slowly. Because your sister told me you weren't. The words land like a slap. Victoria called you. Not directly. She mentioned it at a dinner party. Said you'd stepped back from the business, that you were going through a rough time. Claire pauses, looks at me like she's deciding how much to share. She also said you were let go from the family for reasons she couldn't get into. She made it sound serious. Thea, like it was legal. A couple of people at that dinner were in real estate. Word travels. I set down my pencil. My hands are shaking. Not from sadness this time, from something harder. Did she say what the reasons were? No. That's what made it worse. She left it open. People filled in the blanks. I understand now. The cancellations, the sudden distance. Victoria didn't just take my inheritance. She was salting the earth behind me. Quietly, socially, with plausible deniability. No fingerprints, just whispers at dinner parties. I want to call her. I want to scream. Instead, I thank Claire. I finish my coffee and I make a decision right there, sitting in that booth with my $6.50 and 50 cents latte and my ruined client list. I won't confront Victoria. I won't beg my parents. I'll rebuild somewhere. She can't reach me. 3 months after the meeting, I break my own rule and call my mother. Not to beg, not to cry. I need one answer. She picks up on the 3rd ring. Thea, not a question, not a greeting, just an acknowledgement that I still exist. Did you plan it, Mom? Silence. The meeting, the 12 people. Mr. Whitfield, all of it. Was it planned? We did what was best for the family. For the family or for Victoria? Victoria never gave us a reason to worry. I never gave you one either. Longer silence this time. I hear her breathing. I hear the kitchen faucet dripping. The one Dad's been meaning to fix for 7 years. Strange. The details you remember when your mother is deciding whether to be honest with you. Thea. Her voice softens, but it's the softness of someone explaining something to a child. If you'd listened to us from the beginning, gone to law school, or at least gotten a real job, none of this would have happened. You chose this. There it is, the core of it. In Patricia Anders' world, obedience equals love. I disobeyed, so I don't qualify. This is the last time I call this number. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic, Mom. I'm being clear. I hang up and I keep my word. No calls, no texts, no emails. Not that month, not the month after. The silence between us becomes a wall, and every day I don't reach for the phone. It grows another inch higher. I'm not angry anymore. That's the part no one tells you about cutting ties. Eventually the rage runs out, and what's left is just quiet. A terrible, steady quiet that sounds a lot like freedom. 4 months and Victoria sends the first email. Subject line, thinking of you. The body is long, carefully written and dripping with concern. I want you to know I had no part in their decision. Mom and Dad acted on their own. I tried to talk them out of it, but you know how Dad is. I hope you're doing okay. I worry about you. I read it twice. Not because it's convincing, because it isn't. Every sentence is constructed like a legal defense. No admissions, no specifics, no accountability. This email isn't for me, it's insurance. If things ever blow up, Victoria can point to it and say, "See, I reached out, I was the caring sister." I don't respond. 2 weeks later, a second email, shorter, more direct. I heard you're struggling financially. If you need help, I'm here. You don't have to do this alone. Just ask. Just ask. The 2 most loaded words in the English language when they come from someone who's standing on your neck. I read this one once, then I closed the laptop. But something makes me stop. A small instinct, the kind that lives in the back of your brain where survival decisions are made. I open the laptop again. I create a new folder in my inbox. I label it simply V. I drag both emails into it. I don't know what I'll do with them. I don't even know if they matter, but my gut tells me to keep a record. Victoria is meticulous. She plans 3 moves ahead. If she's sending emails this polished, she's building a narrative, and I should be keeping one too. Victoria's kindness always came with a receipt. I just never thought to check the fine print before. The Hartford penthouse changes everything. The mystery email from week 3 turns out to belong to a woman named Margaret Calloway, 62 years old. Self-made, owns commercial properties across Connecticut and North Carolina. Sharp eyes, silver rings on 3 fingers. The kind of handshake that tells you she's been underestimated her whole life and has enjoyed proving people wrong every single time. We meet at the penthouse 18th floor overlooking Bushnell Park. The space is a disaster. Previous tenant gutted the kitchen and left. Walls stripped to drywall, exposed pipes. Most designers would see a problem. I see a cathedral. Margaret watches me walk the rooms for 40 minutes. I don't pitch. I don't sell. I just move through the space, touching surfaces, measuring light angles with my hand, crouching to check sight lines. When I'm done, she's standing in the doorway with her arms crossed and the faintest smile. You see space differently than anyone I've met. The project takes 5 months. Budget $120,000. More money than I've ever been responsible for. I don't sleep much. I source materials from salvage yards and artisan workshops. Every choice is deliberate. Every corner tells a story. When it's finished, Margaret walks through the completed penthouse and doesn't say a word for a long time. Then she turns to me. I have 3 colleagues who need someone exactly like you. Within 2 months, I have 4 active projects, real ones, not $800. Living room refreshes, full residential redesigns with clients who found me through Margaret's name. Over dinner one evening, Margaret mentioned something that barely registers at the time, but later, much later, it will matter enormously. I'm looking into boutique hospitality. If you ever want to invest your time, not money, I'd like to talk. I don't invest in people who need saving, she tells me. I invest in people who just need a door. 8 months after the family meeting, I leave Connecticut. Margaret's boutique hotel project is in Asheville, North Carolina, a city built into the Blue Ridge Mountains full of artists and hikers and people who chose a different kind of life. It feels like the right place to stop running and start building. I pack my car, a 12-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door, and drive south. Everything I own fits in the trunk and back seat. Fabric samples, a box of books, 3 houseplants I refuse to leave behind. In Asheville, I rent a one-bedroom apartment above a pottery studio. The floors creak. The water pressure is a suggestion. It's perfect. I file the paperwork for an LLC. I choose the name carefully. Alder Interiors. No Anders anywhere. A clean start needs a clean name. Margaret and I formalize our arrangement. She invests $150,000 into Alder Interiors, not charity, a business agreement with terms, margins, and milestones. I handle design. She connects me with property owners looking to renovate commercial spaces. Profits split by percentage. Everything documented. I work 14-hour days. Some nights I fall asleep at my desk with a pencil still in my hand. I don't check social media. I don't call Connecticut. The world I came from shrinks a little more each week until it feels like something I watched in a movie once. Then one Tuesday morning, my phone buzzes with a name I haven't seen in years. Daniel Reeves' college friend, now a real estate attorney in Charlotte. He spotted Alder Interiors in a North Carolina business filing. Is this you, Thea Anders, running an interiors firm? Congrats! Coffee sometime for the first time in 8 months. I smile without thinking about it. I type back. Name a place. Daniel Reeves looks exactly the way I remember. Tall, slightly rumpled, the kind of guy who wears a suit like he's doing it a favor. We meet at a coffee shop in downtown Charlotte. He orders black coffee. I order the same. Some things don't change. We catch up. He's been practicing real estate law for 5 years. Good clients, steady work. He asks about Alder Interiors. I tell him the basics. Boutique hospitality, commercial renovations, Margaret's investment. He listens carefully. Lawyers always do. Then I tell him the part I haven't told many people. The meeting, the signing, the 12 relatives, Patricia's words. Daniel sets down his cup. His expression shifts from friendly to focused. Wait, your sister, Victoria Anders. Yes. From Fairfield County, works at a firm in Stamford. That's her. Why, he's quiet for a moment, running something through his head. Her name came up in a transaction I was reviewing last week. A commercial deal in the Southeast. She was CC'd on an email chain between a broker and a property management group. That doesn't make sense. Victoria doesn't do commercial real estate. That's what I thought. He leans forward. Thea, in those emails, your sister was warning them about you. She said you were unreliable, that your family cut ties with you for serious financial concerns. She used your full name. The coffee tastes like ash. She told them not to work with anyone connected to Thea Anders. I don't speak. The coffee shop noise fills the gap. Espresso machine, laughter. Someone's playlist bleeding through cheap speakers. Daniel watches me carefully. Don't do anything yet, he says. Let me look into it. But Thea, if this is what I think it is, your sister wasn't just favored. She was actively working against you. I nod. My hands are flat on the table, steady. But under the surface, something is shifting. I need to pause the story here for a second because this is the moment where everything splits. If you were me, if you just found out your own sister was going behind your back, sabotaging your name, making sure you couldn't rebuild, what would you do? Would you confront her? Or would you keep building in silence? Drop your answer in the comments. A for confront. B for silence. And if this story is hitting close to home right now, that subscribe button is right there. It's free. It helps more than you know. Okay, let's keep going because what happened next, I didn't see it coming either. 18 months after I left Connecticut. Alder Interiors finishes its 12th project. I keep a running log in a leather notebook Margaret gave me. Every project, every number 12 renovations, annual revenue, $1.2 million. It still doesn't feel real when I write it. Margaret and I make our first major acquisition, a neglected commercial building in South Asheville. 3 stories, brick exterior, condemned by the city 2 years prior. Everyone tells us it's a money pit. We see something else. I redesign the interior. Margaret handles the permits and zoning. We pour 6 months and every available dollar into it. When we're done, the building houses 4 luxury retail tenants and 2 design studios. Net profit after renovation, $340,000. My name starts appearing in regional design magazines, a feature in Asheville Home and Design, a mention in a Charlotte real estate newsletter. Small recognitions, but they mean everything to someone who was told she'd never amount to anything. I hire 3 employees, a project manager, an assistant designer, a bookkeeper who keeps me honest. We work out of a converted warehouse space that smells like sawdust and fresh paint. I still drive the Honda Civic, still live in the 1-bedroom above the pottery studio, still eat lunch at my desk. The money grows, but my life stays small on purpose. Then one evening over Thai food in Margaret's kitchen, she says something that makes my chopsticks stop midair. There's a parcel of land in Westport, Connecticut. Just came on the market. It's adjacent to some residential estates in the Fairfield County area. She watches my face. I know what she's telling me. Westport borders my parents' neighborhood. I don't flinch. Send me the listing. 3 years after the day I signed those papers, I walk into the Connecticut Real Estate Association's annual charity gala at the Hartford Marriott. I almost didn't come. When Margaret mentioned it, 200 guests, black tie, every name in Connecticut real estate, my first instinct was to say no. I'm not ready to stand in a room full of people who might know my family, who might have heard Victoria's version of my story, but Margaret doesn't let me hide. You're my business partner, Thea. You belong in that room. So here I am. Black dress, simple, no jewelry, hair, straight and clean. I look like someone who doesn't need to prove anything. And for the first time, that's not a performance. The ballroom is gold lit. Champagne on silver trays, string quartet in the corner, 200 people in dark suits and designer gowns, networking under crystal chandeliers. I see them before they see me. My father stands near the bar speaking with Mr. Whitfield, the same attorney who slid that document toward me 3 years ago. My mother sits at a round table with Aunt Janet, her back straight, her pearls catching the light, and Victoria. She's across the room mid-con conversation with a group of men in expensive ties laughing, gesturing in her element. My chest tightens. 3 years of silence and my body still reacts to them like a warning system. Margaret places a hand on my arm. Breathe. I breathe. Then Patricia turns her head. Our eyes meet across 60 feet of polished floor. Her champagne glass stops halfway to her lips. Victoria notices her mother's expression, follows her gaze, finds me for 1 full second. Nobody moves. Then Margaret walks straight toward the Anders table and I walk with her. Margaret extends her hand to Mr. Whitfield like they're old colleagues. They probably are. Gerald, good to see you. She turns smoothly, one arm gesturing toward me. Have you met my business partner, Thea Anders, the creative force behind Alder Interiors? She says it at full volume, not aggressive, not pointed, just the natural tone of a woman introducing someone she's proud of. Half the surrounding tables hear it. Richard turns slowly. His face cycles through recognition, confusion, and something I can't name. He stares at me like I'm a ghost who walked in through the wrong door. Patricia recovers first. She always does. Thea. Her smile appears like a light switch. Instant practiced. Camera ready. What a surprise. We've been so worried about you. She reaches for my hand. I let her take it. One squeeze, then I pull back. I appreciate that, Mom. I've been well. Victoria appears at the table's edge. She's watching me the way a chess player watches an unexpected move. We heard you were doing some decorating work. She tilts her head, a small patronizing smile. That's sweet. The word sweet lands exactly as she intends it, dismissive, minimizing. But Margaret heard it. She turns to Victoria with the calm authority of a woman who has eaten people like this for breakfast for 40 years. Decorating. Alder Interiors manages a $6 million commercial portfolio. I'd hardly call that decorating. The table goes silent. A man seated beside Mr. Whitfield lowers his scotch. 2 women behind us stop their conversation. Victoria's smile doesn't disappear. It freezes. A colleague of Victoria's, a real estate lawyer I don't recognize, leans over. Alder Interiors, she owns that. We just contracted them for our Stanford project. Victoria's face goes white. I stand perfectly still. I didn't come here to prove anything. I came because I was invited, and right now that's enough. 1 week after the gala, the phone call happens. I'm not there for it. Daniel tells me afterwards, sitting across from me at his office in Charlotte, a legal pad covered in notes between us. Here's what happened. The Westport property, the parcel Margaret and I are purchasing, sits adjacent to the Anders family estate. Standard procedure requires a boundary survey and title verification. Daniel, as my attorney, reaches out to the attorney of record for the neighboring property. That attorney is Gerald Whitfield. Daniel makes the call. Professional routine. He identifies the purchasing entity. Alder Interiors, LLC. Owner and principal. Thea Anders. Silence on the line. Not a polite pause. A long, airless nothing. Thea Anders. Whitfield's voice changes register. The same Thea Anders from the inheritance file. That's correct. Another silence. Daniel says he can hear Whitfield shifting papers on his desk. I'll need to verify financials on the buyer side for the boundary agreement standard compliance. Of course, Daniel says I'll send a summary. Alder Interior's total portfolio valuation, including real property and business assets, approximately $9.4 million. Daniel tells me the silence lasted 15 seconds. 15 seconds. He knows because he counted. Then Whitfield said very quietly, "I'll need to contact my client." That was it. No commentary, no questions, just the sound of a man recalibrating everything he thought he knew about a family he's served for 20 years. Daniel sets down his pen and looks at me across the table. He didn't say a word for about 15 seconds. "Thea, that's a long time for a lawyer." I nod. My hands are in my lap. My pulse is steady. But somewhere deep inside my chest, behind the calm and the professionalism and the 3 years of silence, something exhales. Gerald Whitfield calls Richard Anders that same afternoon. I learn the details later through Daniel, through documents, through the version that eventually filters back to me whether I want it or not. But here's what happened in the study of the Ridgewood Lane house behind a closed mahogany door on an ordinary Tuesday. Whitfield lays it out simply. A property transaction adjacent parcel buyer, Alder Interiors, owned and operated by Thea Anders. Net valuation of combined assets, approximately $9.4 million. Richard says nothing for a long time. Then that's impossible. Whitfield repeats the number, confirms the documentation. Notes that no Onder family funds appear anywhere in the company's capital structure. She built that alone, according to every filing I've reviewed? Yes, that's impossible. Richard says it again, softer this time, like the word is the only thing he can hold on to. That's impossible. Patricia is in the room. She's been listening on speaker from the armchair by the window. Her face hasn't moved, but her hand grips the linen napkin on the side table so tightly her knuckles have gone white. In the living room, Victoria is on the phone with a friend. Her voice carries through the wall, tight, urgent. "What do you know about Alder Interiors, the company in North Carolina? Have you heard of it?" Richard sets the phone down. He stares at the wall where 3 photographs of Victoria hang in silver frames. Then he looks at the bare space beside them where a photograph of Thea has never been. "I want to call her." Whitfield's reply is gentle but firm. "Through attorneys, Richard. She has counsel now. This goes through proper channels." Richard nods slowly. And in that nod, something breaks that won't go back together. His daughter has a lawyer because of him. The emails surfaced that same week and they change everything. Daniel is completing due diligence for the Westport purchase. Title searches, lien checks, transaction history for the surrounding parcels. Routine, boring. The kind of paperwork that makes law school graduates question their life choices. But buried in a chain of correspondence between a regional brokerage and a property management firm, Daniel finds something that is not routine at all. An email from Victoria Anders, sent 14 months earlier, addressed to a commercial broker named Paul Erickson. The subject line, "Heads Up, Confidential." The content, Victoria expressing concern about a woman named Thea Anders who may approach firms in the Southeast market. She describes me as financially irresponsible. Claims I was removed from the family due to serious trust issues. Advises Erickson to exercise caution with anyone associated with that name. There are 3 more emails in the chain. Different recipients, same language, same careful, devastating phrasing. Victoria never says anything overtly false. She implies, she suggests. She lets the reader fill in the worst version of the story. It's elegant, it's calculated, and in the state of Connecticut, it's called tortious interference with business relations. Daniel sends me the chain. I read it once, sitting at my desk in Asheville with the mountain light coming through the window. I don't scream. I don't cry. I close the laptop and sit with it for a full hour. Then I open it again and call Daniel. "Are these enough?" "More than enough." "How long have you known I found them 2 days ago?" "I wanted to verify before telling you." I nod, even though he can't see me. "Keep them safe," I say. "I'll decide when I'm ready. I'm not going to use them out of anger. I'm going to use them if she doesn't stop." Let me step out of the story for just a moment because we've reached the turning point and I want to hear from you. Thea has the evidence. She has the money. She has every legal right to take this to court. But here's the question. If you were her, would you sue your own sister, or would you walk away and let your success speak for itself? A for sue, B for walk away. Tell me in the comments. I've read every single one so far and I'm not stopping now. Let's get back to it because what Thea decides, it isn't what you'd expect. 2 days later, Daniel gets the call. "Mr. Whitfield, on behalf of Richard Anders," formal tone, careful words. "My client would like to arrange a meeting with Ms. Anders, a family conversation." Daniel asks me. I think about it for 1 full day. I sit with it the way I've learned to sit with every hard decision in the past 3 years without rushing, without reacting, without letting the old version of me take the wheel. Then I tell Daniel, no, if my father has something to say, he can put it in writing. Richard writes, the letter arrives through Whitfield's office on personal stationery, not legal letterhead, his handwriting. Thea, I am incredibly proud of what you've accomplished. I had no idea. I would like to see you. We have a lot to discuss. Can we talk? I read it at my kitchen table. I read it again standing at the window. I read it a third time sitting on the floor like I did the night everything fell apart. He's proud. Of course he is, because now there's a number attached to my name. $9.4 million of validation. But where was this letter when I was earning $800 per project? Where was this pride when I was eating cereal for dinner? When I couldn't keep a client because his other daughter was poisoning every well in a 3-state radius? I dictate my response to Daniel. He sends it through Whitfield. Thank you, Dad. But I don't need pride that arrives 3 years late. I built my life without it. I'll continue without it. A week later, Richard sends a second letter. 2 words written in ink that smudged slightly like his hand was shaking. I'm sorry. I read it. I fold it. I put it in a drawer. I don't reply. I don't sue Victoria. I want to be clear about that. Not because I forgive her. Not yet. But because a lawsuit turns my life into a courtroom exhibit and I've spent 3 years taking it back, I'm not handing it over again. Instead, Daniel drafts a cease and desist letter. It is 5 pages long, precise and devastating. It names 4 specific instances of defamatory communication. It attaches the email chain. It quotes the relevant Connecticut statute on tortious interference with business relations, and it ends with a single clear statement. If Victoria Anders continues to disseminate false or misleading information regarding Thea Anders or Alder Interiors LLC, legal proceedings will be initiated without further notice. Daniel sends it certified mail to Victoria's office at the law firm in Stamford. She receives it on a Thursday morning. I know this because Daniel gets a read confirmation at 10:14 a.m. By 10:32 a.m., Victoria calls Patricia. I learn the details later through the grapevine that Daniel has quietly maintained with contacts in the Connecticut legal community. Word travels in small professional circles, especially when a lawyer gets served a cease and desist at her own firm. She has the emails. Victoria's voice, I'm told, was flat, controlled, but fast. The way people speak when they're calculating damage. She has everything I sent, what emails Patricia asks. All of them. Everyone I sent to brokers, to property managers about Thea. A long pause. We'll handle it. Patricia says this in the same tone she used 3 years ago at the dining room table. But it doesn't land the same way anymore. There's a crack in it now. That evening, Victoria calls my phone directly. First time in 3 years. I watch her name light up the screen. I decline the call. Not because I'm afraid, because there's nothing left to say. The emails do what emails always do. They travel. I never leak them. I never post them. I never mention them to anyone outside of Daniel and Margaret. But the cease and desist arrives at Victoria's firm during business hours. A legal secretary processes the delivery. A managing partner reviews the cover sheet as part of standard risk protocol. Within a week, 2 senior associates at Victoria's firm know that she used professional channels to defame her own sister. Within 2 weeks, the managing partner has a quiet conversation with Victoria behind a closed door. She isn't fired, but she's reassigned. Moved from client F-facing commercial transactions to internal compliance review, a windowless office, no client lunches, no networking events. In the Connecticut legal community, the story spreads the way all professional gossip does. Not with fireworks, but with raised eyebrows and carefully worded references. Difficult family situation, judgment issues. Not someone you want representing your interests. Victoria's reputation doesn't collapse overnight. It erodes slowly, permanently, slowly. I hear about it from Daniel, who hears about it from colleagues who hear about it from other colleagues. I don't celebrate. There's nothing to celebrate about watching someone dismantle their own career with emails they chose to send. Then one afternoon, a number I haven't seen in 3 years appears on my phone. Uncle Robert, Thea. His voice is heavier than I remember. I owe you an apology. For what? For that day, the meeting. I should have said something. I should have stood up. I close my eyes. Thank you, Uncle Robert. That means more now than you know. He asks if he can visit sometime. I tell him Asheville is beautiful in spring. When we hang up, I sit for a long time. The emails expose themselves. I didn't have to. The house on Ridgewood Lane gets quieter. I hear fragments of what's happening through Uncle Robert, who starts calling me every other Sunday. He keeps it light, Whether his dog a funny story about grandmother Rosemary. But sometimes without meaning to, he lets details slip. Richard has stopped attending his weekly golf game. He sits in his study for hours. The bookshelves are lined with law journals he'll never open again. And somewhere on his desk, Robert saw it once, is a printout a magazine article about Alder Interiors. My photograph is in the corner. Richard has read it so many times the paper is soft at the creases. Patricia holds the line. In public, she tells friends the same story she's been telling for 3 years. Thea was always the difficult one now that she has money. Everyone wants to rewrite history. She says this at brunch at book club at the farmer's market on Saturday mornings. But Robert tells me that late at night he's heard her through the bathroom door crying, not the performative kind. The kind that sounds like it comes from a place she won't admit exists during daylight. Richard sends a third letter handwritten like the second. Longer this time. I'm not asking you to come back. I know I don't have that right anymore. I just want you to know I was wrong. I see it now. I see you now. I know it's too late. I read it sitting on my porch in Asheville. The mountains are turning gold. The air smells like wood smoke and rain. I cry for the first time in 3 years. I let myself cry. Not from pain, from the ache of getting something you once needed desperately long after you've learned to live without it. I fold the letter. I put it in the drawer with the other one. I don't reply. Margaret tells me over dinner on a Tuesday like it's nothing. We're at her farmhouse outside Asheville. She's made roast chicken and opened a bottle of wine she's been saving for no particular occasion. The fire is low. Her cat is asleep on the armchair. I knew your father. I set down my fork. Not now, she says. 30 years ago, when I was starting my first company, Richard Anders was a young attorney in Fairfield County. Sharp, ambitious. He was one of my earliest legal advisors. I don't speak. He was good at his job, but he measured everything in numbers, revenue returns. If it couldn't be quantified, it didn't exist for him. She pauses. He told me once that I lacked vision, that boutique real estate would never scale. I ended the retainer that week. A year later, my company was outperforming every projection he'd made. She looks at me across the table with a steadiness that I've learned to trust more than anything. When you first contacted me about the Hartford penthouse, I didn't know who you were. I hired you because your portfolio was remarkable. I found out you were Richard's daughter later when you told me about the meeting. And I decided I wasn't going to let history repeat itself. She turns her wine glass slowly. Not because I hate your father. I don't. But because I know what it feels like to be dismissed by someone who can't see past their own measuring stick. I sit with this for a long time. Margaret didn't rescue me. She recognized me. Recognized the look in my eyes that she'd once seen in her own mirror 30 years ago, standing in a young lawyer's office being told she would never be enough. Thank you, I say. Don't thank me, just keep building. 6 months after the gala. The Westport property closes. I don't build a house on it. I don't build anything for myself. Instead, I convert it into a shared creative workspace. Studios and meeting rooms for young designers, artists and architects who are just starting out, people who need a door. The kind of space I wish had existed when I was sleeping on my kitchen floor with $3,200 to my name. I name it the Alder Collective. Margaret cuts the ribbon. The same week, Victoria sends her final email. I know I messed up. I know what I did was wrong. Can we talk, please? This time I reply. It takes me an hour to write 4 sentences. Victoria. I forgive you, I mean that. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you back in my life. I wish you well. I press send, and something loosens in my chest that I didn't know was still tight. 2 days later, my phone rings. Patricia. I almost don't answer, but something tells me this conversation needs to happen. Not for her, but for me, one last time. You proved your point, she says. Now come home. I stand at the window of my apartment. The mountains are blue and endless. The pottery studio below is playing something soft on the radio. Mom, I didn't prove a point. I built a life and this is my home now. Thea, I love you, but I can't go back to being someone you only value when the numbers are right. She's quiet. I hear her breathing. And I wonder if she's crying again, or if she's angry, or if she's simply sitting in the silence of a house that's too big for 2 people who pushed away the wrong daughter. I hang up gently. Home isn't a house your parents own. It's the one you chose for yourself. So that's my story. I don't tell it so you'll hate my family. They're people. Flawed, stubborn, sometimes cruel, but people. My father was raised to believe success looked one way, and he couldn't see it when it showed up wearing a different outfit. My mother believed love meant control, And when she lost control, she lost the language for love. My sister was terrified that if I succeeded, her entire identity would collapse because it was built on being better than me. They were wrong, all of them. But they weren't strangers. They were my family, and that's what made it hurt the way it did. Here's what I learned. And I'm sharing it not as advice, but as something I carry with me. You don't need permission from the people who gave up on you to start over. You just need one door. Sometimes you have to build that door yourself. Sometimes someone like Margaret holds it open for you. Either way, the door is yours. Setting boundaries with family isn't abandonment. It's not cruelty. It's the decision to stop bleeding for people who won't hand you a bandage. Today, Alder Interiors has 14 employees. Our portfolio is north of $10 million. Margaret is still my partner. Daniel is still my lawyer. And every morning I wake up in a house I bought myself in a city I chose, living a life I built from a kitchen floor and a list of what I still had. Richard still writes letters. I still read them. I haven't replied. Maybe someday I will. Maybe I won't. That's my choice now. And if you're out there right now, sitting in the aftermath of being told you're not enough by the people who are supposed to believe in you, hear me? The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building a life so full that their opinion no longer fits anywhere inside it. And that's where I'll leave it. If you made it this far, thank you. It means more than you know. Now I want to hear your story. Have you ever had to walk away from family to save yourself? Or are you still deciding? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and if you want more stories like this, check the description. There's another one waiting for you right there. I'll see you in the next